So OpenClaw works for me overnight. That's what I love. Claude Code won't do anything where it takes a massive action unless you give it explicit permissions. OpenClaw doesn't really care about your permissions. So OpenClaw will go ahead and do everything as if it already had your permission in the first place. Right there, that's the beauty of OpenClaw. So yes, my agents converse with each other. Our actual cash collected, like the actual billing process, we went from, I think, 75% on time or something like that to like 92%. Just from implementing this. Claude Code builds you things that are production ready. Lovable builds something that looks cool, doesn't actually work.
Are you doing social media scheduling with Claude Code?
No, not scheduling. Creation, but not scheduling.
Who's scheduling?
I just post them myself.
You like to?
Yeah, I don't like anything autonomous on my LinkedIn account.
Because of the algorithm, yeah.
The algorithm, also, it's just quality control. People know me for my quality. It's like I still write all my own posts. In fact, I dictate them. But when I dictate them, I use OpenClaw to basically be a resource, and Claude Code, I use both, to be a resource across every single thing that I'm doing. So they can go through my call transcripts, they can go through my email threads, my Slack messages, whatever, find out what's relevant, what's resonating with people. And then from there, it can help me come up with content ideas. Once I have those content ideas, I've built a series of skills into Claude Code and into my OpenClaw agent. And my OpenClaw agent is able to create infographics and carousels for me based on the content of my posts. And because of that, I get a post carousel, I get a post infographic, whatever. I get the actual post. I've trained it on virality and how to find virality using Apify as a scraper built in. And then when it goes and does all of those things, that comes back to me. And when it comes back to me, it says, here's a hook. Here's a post geared towards virality based on what I'm seeing go viral in the market today. Here's your actual post. Here's your infographic. Here's your carousel. I'd post this. I'm going to give you 3 different options.
Yeah, we can talk about that. And so you'll dictate, given an idea, it'll feed off that, do more research based on that idea, both locally in your database of stuff, but also on the internet.
Yep, I have it blending both.
And why an OpenClaw agent, not Claude Code? Just because you've set it up that way.
So OpenClaw works for me overnight. That's what I love. Claude Code won't do anything where it takes a massive action unless you give it explicit permissions. OpenClaw doesn't really care about your permissions. So OpenClaw will go ahead and do everything as if it already had your permission in the first place. So OpenClaw, let's say, for example, I'm following a European creator, an Asian creator on Instagram. And I am doing this, by the way. And
who creator?
A European or an Asian creator, someone like that. So let's say I'm following one of these people, and it's from Instagram. So they might post at 2 a.m, right?
Right.
And I want to have this post ready by 7:30 in the morning, my time. OpenClaw will schedule batch jobs, and it'll go, and it'll do a 4 o'clock search, a 7 o'clock search, a 10 o'clock search every 3 hours, something like that. And it'll send me, hey, so-and-so just posted this. This is important to your audience because this relates to Understory with X, Y, and Z. So it'll give me all of the ways that post relates to what I do at Understory. And then it also feeds me news. Like, for example, I found out that Carpathy came up with this way to basically be way more efficient by using Obsidian with your tokens for token utilization. I found that out through one of the Instagram creators that I follow, who's the first person I'd ever seen talk about it. I didn't even see it on a news article or on X or anything like that. I found out from this one guy. So when he said that at 7:30 in the morning, I'm learning about this. And so now I already have a post written. I have an infographic already created about it and how it relates to Understory clients. And then I go through it. Occasionally, I'll look at it and be like, wow, that's absolutely fantastic. I'm okay with posting that. Usually, what I'll do is I'll say, okay, this is great, but it's more of a news article or news post than it is about something that's actually going to resonate with my audience. So I'll tweak it to make sure it actually resonates with my audience. It's something I understand. It's something I agree with. It's something that I want my audience to know about. And I feel like I'm delivering value to my audience. But if it is, I already have the infographic created. I already have everything. I've created custom branding for the infographics. I've built a series of skills that understand CSS. And so the CSS is always perfect. I have to do nothing with the infographics or the carousels. The only thing I have to do is spot check the post to make sure it's not full of shit, But 99.9% of the time, to be honest, it's not full of shit because I've already created sub-agents that are fact-checking. I have another sub-agent that does security checks. So I have all these agents that are doing things for the master agent. So I think I told you about this, but my master agent is called Kylie. It's my cat. I have a cat named Kylie.
Yeah.
Kylie actually talks to my employees in my company.
Yeah.
She sends messages. She's always following, but she works in different sub-agents. So rather than have one master agent that can do everything, even though that's what it is at a high level, it breaks off tasks into sub-agents. So I have a sub-agent called Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes is the one I'm talking about that's investigating on social media, finding all these news articles, finding everything like that, and then sending me a report in the morning and saying, here's 5 post ideas and how they resonate with Understory audiences. Okay.
Do you have the agents talk to each other without your intervention?
Yep.
Do you instruct them?
That's the beauty of OpenClaw.
Right.
Right there, that's the beauty of OpenClaw. So yes, my agents converse with each other. So
You've
Sherlock
not
Holmes.
been able to replicate that in Claude Code?
So with the new agent feature that they just released a few days ago or a week ago or whatever it is, I believe you can. I haven't set it up yet, transparently, so I'm overdue on that. In Claude years, that's like a millennium that I've let gone by without me doing that. But my sub agents do talk to each other now, and those are secure. They're set up into Docker, right? So the way those work is you've got Kylie. Kylie's the master agent. You've got Sherlock Holmes that's going and doing research. Sherlock Holmes goes and talks to RoboCop. RoboCop fact checks. RoboCop does security checks. RoboCop prevents Kylie from downloading skills that are malicious because Kylie automatically finds herself skills to re-download and make herself smarter. And then you've got another one that I built for something totally separate that we won't even get into on this one. But the three primary agents are Kylie, who's the master agent. She's the one who actually talks to me the most. Kylie is the one who intervenes with my clients, my employees, everything like that. Sherlock Holmes is doing the research, and RoboCop is basically the safety check. So they are all interacting with each other on a daily basis.
So to someone who's still not really exploring the full breadth of what AI can deliver, why don't you explain as well how the agents talk to each other all within one environment autonomously? Like, do you have to have separate sort of chats, or do you have one master chat?
So I have one master chat. So like I can talk to Kylie. I can just Slack Kylie. I set Kylie up in Slack. You can do it in WhatsApp. You can do it in Telegram. A lot of people actually like Telegram. I personally don't like Telegram. But a lot of people do like Telegram because you can see as the agent's typing and things like that. It's more interactive.
Some people use Discord as well.
Yeah, Discord's also a great one. People love Discord. I'm personally not a Discord guy either.
Okay.
I like WhatsApp and I like Slack personally.
Okay, cool.
So
you can talk to each individual agent from Slack, but then you've got a completely autonomous, continually updating thread that you have access to as an MD file, which is where the three agents are talking to each other.
So there's a ton of different ways you can interact with an OpenClaw agent. So for me, primarily, I create an OpenClaw TUI, which is just a gateway for me to talk to it directly in the terminal. I prefer that because I think it's the fastest. It's direct. You're talking to it directly in the terminal, so you're talking to the actual, code.
From VS Code?
No, I'll do it just in the terminal.
Okay, got it. From terminal, right.
Yeah.
Understood.
But you can do it in VS Code too, by the way. So you can talk to it through Claude Code. Claude Code has access to it because it's just a download thing on your computer at the end of the day.
Right.
So Claude Code does have access to it as well. But I like to talk to it through the OpenClaw TUI, which is just the gateway through PowerShell. I do that most of the time. The problem is when you're talking to Slack, sometimes it screws up and the memory doesn't save over from Slack to the OpenClaw TUI, which is actually quite frustrating. So like I might have a post idea that comes to me in Slack every single morning, which I do. And I might say, hey, this is great, Kylie. And Sherlock, thank you for doing the research. But moving forward, I don't want you to ever have an M dash. That's just a stupid example, right? No M dash is ever in a post again. And when I'll tell Kylie that in Slack, she might not necessarily save that into her memory. And so when I go in the OpenClaw TUI and I interact with it there, sometimes it doesn't have that, so it'll send me another post with an M dash. That's frustrating. The best way to do it is save it in the actual OpenClaw TUI in the gateway, because that way it saves to the actual code base. Sometimes Slack doesn't get all the way there.
Well, because I think you may be one of the first people in the entire tech world to solve the problem of the M dash continually reappearing. So I think that is actually
you're still seeing it nonstop,
like aren't you? I think there are a lot of people still seeing it nonstop.
I actually heard this one guy who said we should bring it back. He was like, it's like when you see no M dashes, that's how you know it's AI now, because everyone's trying so hard to get rid of the M dash. Now maybe we should be bringing it back. But
exactly.
Yeah, I try not to use it just because I didn't even know how to use an M dash grammatically until AI came out. So
yeah. You've got agency client relationships being cut off purely because there's too many M dashes.
Yeah, have you seen that?
Right, I'm seeing it firsthand with other people.
Has it happened to you?
I've fired an agency for having too many M dashes.
There you go.
Work, so,
and we do content creation for our clients now too. So if we're doing anything like that, and by the way, that's another thing I do want to talk about is how you can create content for your clients using the same principles that we're creating for our own content. And all you have to do is change the brand guidelines, change the themes. Obviously, you have to make sure that the agents that you're building on understand the context of that client too. But we offer content as a service, and we're doing that, and our clients are getting the best engagement they've ever gotten.
Right. So you've rolled out content as a service, or you were doing this before?
No, we have rolled out content as a service. We have multiple clients for content now, and they're seeing excellent results. They love the quality. They love the infographics and the visuals that we're creating on their behalf. They love how up-to-date everything that we're doing is, because we have research agents going and doing it. And so for us, we have these principles. We know how to write content.
Right.
We've been doing it for a long time. Like I don't know, close to 30,000 followers on LinkedIn myself. Half of our company has built a pretty substantial following at this point. And it's like we have principles that we know work, so we just agentified them, basically, and rolled it out as a service for our clients. And yeah, it's working. And people are happy to pay for it because the ROI is there, you know?
Cool. I mean, I'm imagining that you're rolling out very much the same service that you've just spoken about with me, the same process of researching with OpenClaw, but for each of your clients and their niches, correct?
Yes, but what we'll do is we'll build individual agents on Claude Code instead. Because if you build them on OpenClaw, like I think I told you this,
Yeah.
I don't roll out OpenClaw for our clients.
Right,
I don't
of course.
trust any sensitive information with OpenClaw, even if it is in Docker, even if it is safe. I still wouldn't trust it right now. So we're not using OpenClaw for our clients. I use OpenClaw as my personal assistant. Ali, my co-founder, he has OpenClaw for his personal assistant. And eventually maybe we'll roll it out for some of our employees as well. But as of right now, that's how we use OpenClaw. Everything else is Claude Code, and I'm very excited to try the new Claude agents. Haven't done it yet.
Right, got it. And so what is the promise of Claude agents to do 90% of what OpenClaw already does?
Yeah,
right?
so the difference between Claude agents and what you've been able to do historically with Claude is now Claude agents are hosting them on their own infrastructure, on their own servers. So it basically is an autonomous agent that's on 24/7, plus it's got the security team of Anthropic behind it, which is why it goes a long way. Like OpenClaw, you see all these posts, OpenClaw is dead, OpenClaw is blah, 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 blah. To an extent, it could be if more and more people adopt this. OpenClaw kind of took the world by storm when it came out, and everyone adopted it. And so you've got a shitload of Mac Minis being sold, and now you have to pay $4,000 for a Mac Mini that costs $600.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in Telegram chats where people are asking who wants to buy a Mac Mini, right?
Yeah, it's like people are selling drugs, but they're
Yeah.
Mac Minis. It's insane.
Right.
But
No,
yeah.
but I mean in the sense of like people are wanting to sell on their Mac Minis now because they're not finding a use case for them. I suppose
really?
there is a use case for them even if you want to use Claude agents. Right?
Yeah, no, I mean, there is. It's just extra firepower at that point. So the thing that you need when you're doing this, and you don't with Anthropic, but you do if you're installing it locally on your machine. If you want to run agents locally on your own machine, you need to have RAM, right? And it's like, I have a nice laptop, but it only has 16 gigs of RAM. It's not enough. Back in the day, that was plenty. Nowadays, that's nothing. Like, I need probably 96 or more if I want to run agents locally on my machine, which, by the way, is a good investment if you're doing this at scale, because all this stuff gets super expensive over time, especially now with Claude. Oh my God, the costs have gotten out of hand. Like, I spent, I think, $4,800 last month just on Anthropic API tokens.
Yeah.
Shitload. That's a full-time employee.
Why don't you explain in normal speak for our audience what happened with the bypass that people were using with OpenClaw, sort of being able to integrate with Claude just on the $200 a month package?
Yeah, this is a good one. I'm actually glad you brought this one up. So this is 2 weeks ago, I want to say, they banned this.
Yeah.
But basically, you could, if you had a Claude, I think it was a pro subscription, I think is what it's called.
Yeah.
But the $200 a month subscription, if you had it, you could opt in to your Claude account through OpenClaw, and then you could basically get not unlimited because you will run into extra usage at some point, but close to unlimited AI utilization through your Claude Pro plan, and it would work through your OpenClaw. So your OpenClaw is just basically the pass-through entity that is talking to Anthropic with a bunch of code that teaches it how to be really effective and autonomous, right? So now Claude has completely banned OpenClaw, so you can't do that anymore. So
Why not just use OpenClaw itself? OpenClaw is obviously very expensive, right?
No, OpenClaw is free.
Yeah, but you use credits. With
You use
OpenClaw.
whatever API
Right.
token you use.
Right.
So, like, for example, OpenClaw, to install OpenClaw, it's totally free. But you have to use an AI tool, an LLM.
And it turns out to be a lot more expensive. I mean, we burned in one day $300 on OpenClaw with basic functions by just leaving it autonomously. What this bypass was effectively permitting was for OpenClaw to work through Claude with the tokens that were already available to max out on all the tokens that Claude was offering at a cheaper rate than if you were to use OpenClaw.
Yeah,
right?
and now you have to just use the API. You can't do that anymore. So that's the thing. And yeah, OpenClaw is very expensive if you don't know how to set it up the right way.
Sorry, now you just have to use the Claude OpenClaw API. Is that what you were saying?
You have to use the Claude API,
right.
the Anthropic API,
Yeah.
for OpenClaw.
For
But you don't have
OpenClaw.
to use Anthropic, by the way. You can use any model. It's completely model agnostic, which is one of the beautiful things about it. And another thing that we've completely cracked the code on, because I did the same thing. I spent $300 my very first day on OpenClaw, and I was like, what the hell? it was going on here, and why is my OpenClaw bill firing up like this?
Right.
But then what I did is I set up multiple different models to run in multiple different scenarios. So I give it context on when to use which model. Opus 4.6 is extremely expensive. Extremely expensive. It's amazing for complex tasks, but it's extremely expensive. You don't need to use it all the time. You can get away with Haiku, which is even below Sonnet. So for context, Opus is the most expensive, then Sonnet, and then Haiku.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Most of my tasks get done on Haiku with OpenClaw. Most. But then if it gets stuck and it can't figure something out, and I've given explicit instructions in some cases too, then it'll switch up to Sonnet. If Sonnet can't figure out the task, then it'll go up to OpenClaw or Opus.
Opus, right.
So doing that has cut my cost by probably 40%. Another thing that I do is...
So you're still using the Anthropic API?
I do because it's the best, but you don't have to.
In the sense that you're running OpenClaw, but using the Anthropic API to get Claude to do some of the work and pay per tokens at a cheaper rate, correct?
So OpenClaw is not an LLM.
Right.
OpenClaw is a system that uses an LLM.
Right.
OpenClaw is just the brain, or I wouldn't even say it's the brain. It's the body, and Claude is the brain. But it's not Claude. It's any LLM. So you could use a ton, and you can run them locally as well. You can run Gemmy or whatever I think it's called locally on your machine, but you need good hardware to do that. So
you just want to have OpenClaw interact with different LLMs, but you're still using OpenClaw, the agent, to interact with Claude as your preference of the LLM, correct?
Yes.
Right. Okay, cool.
But I also use, so for some of these things, I also use GPT. It's much cheaper.
Right.
And it's also really good. You can use some of the cheaper GPT models and get away with quite a bit. And it's substantially cheaper. You know, so it's like, and another thing too is ChatGPT, OpenAI, they don't ban OpenClaw. So if you have the pro plan, you can do stuff like that still.
Right, right.
So that's a hack too. But
so
I will
still
say,
max out on your pro subscription on ChatGPT, whereas Anthropic have basically detected when OpenClaw is going to be is in use on their machines because you have to use an API.
you just can't auth in. So when you set up OpenClaw, the way it works is you set it up and they have a whole setup wizard. You
Right.
choose your browser. Most people use an LLM-based browser. So
Right.
like you can use Firecrawl,
Right,
you can
yeah,
use
yeah.
any of these, Tably, whatever. You could also use Gemini,
Right.
whatever. You can choose whatever you want. So you go through this entire setup wizard, and when you're doing a setup wizard, you choose your LLM.
Yeah.
And you can choose between, I think, 16 different LLMs.
Right.
Most people are going to use Claude because it's just the best. It really is. It's just the best. It gets through tasks the quickest, the most thorough. It gives you the most reasonable responses. It's just good. So when you're doing that, it's up to you. You choose whatever you want to use. I use Claude.
Got it. So keep going.
About which part?
No, I mean, so we've established that now you can't OAuth in, right?
Can't OAuth in with Claude, right?
Right, you can't OAuth in Claude, but you have to connect via the Anthropic API.
Yep.
This means that
You just put an API key in. That's all it is.
right, but you're getting charged more for the use of Claude.
Totally. An
this
API
way.
is way more expensive. So basically, the hack that everyone was actually doing historically was you get, I don't remember the exact amount of tokens, but it was like an absurd amount of tokens that you get with that $200 plan. And basically what they're doing is they're banking on the consumer, the regular person who's using
course.
Claude, who's getting a $200 plan,
Yeah.
to say they're probably going to use 10% of their plan, and
Got
we're
it.
going to
For sure.
bank cash off of them.
For sure.
But then you get the people like me and my company.
The power users.
The power users who are
Yeah.
just going to burn through those credits and just absolutely abuse that $200 plan. And it's not malicious by any means. It's just power users are using the shit out of the product.
It's the same model as gyms that have
Exactly.
10% occupancy but charge very little.
Exactly.
Right? They're relying on people never exercising.
Exactly. Builders are going to build.
Right.
And those builders are going to run up the check on Anthropic. And as you know, none of these AI companies are profitable, not even close. So they needed to do something. They absolutely needed to do something because what's going to end up happening is you're going to have an unsustainable business that'll never catch up.
So you
right?
basically just end up having to pay for credits on Claude much quicker, and you max out on the 200 much quicker now, which is fine. But
you don't even have a limit. So there's no like $200 plan. You can set your own limits. Like, so a lot of people will set like a $200, $300, $400 budget on their API utilization. If that happens, it'll block you from using any more tokens.
Yeah, you just
I set
load-
mine extremely high because I don't care. I'm happy to spend the money to get the work done because it's so much more efficient. And I found that the ROI on using Claude, if I spend $5K and I make $20K off of it, I'll spend $5K 25 times.
How are you measuring that? And I'll tell you why I asked that. Because one of the things in the discourse right now around AI is the amount of tokens that anybody uses. And funnily enough, people are evaluating talent based on how efficiently they use tokens. Like the founder of NVIDIA just came out and said, like, if someone's using their salary's worth of tokens in a year, that's either good or bad. Or he was making an example.
What he said,
right?
so what he actually said was, if I have a $500,000 engineer
Right.
that works for me, and he hasn't consumed at least
Right.
250K worth of tokens, I don't like that guy. I'm going to fire that guy.
Right.
So he's saying, I want you to consume tokens.
You need leverage. It's like the concept of leverage, right? If you're worth 500K in salary, you want to be using a lot of tokens.
But think about that statement. So let's say you're a $500,000 engineer, right?
Right.
And you use 250K worth of tokens, but you now have stopped NVIDIA from hiring another 500K engineer. You just saved them 50%.
Correct. This is
Worth it.
leverage.
Exactly. It's super leverage is what it is.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I feel the same way with my employees too. It's like I gave every single one of them access to Claude Code, and I incentivize use. And not only that, but I monitor use. So I can see who's using the most tokens. I have one guy on my team. I love him, Andrew. I'll call him out by name because we talk about it in person all the time. I love Andrew. One day I see that Andrew has spent $600 worth of Claude Code or worth of Claude API tokens in one day. So I go to him, I'm like, Andrew, what are you doing? And he pulls up everything that he's doing, and I'm like, this is fucking incredible. Like, this is amazing. I'm not mad at you at all. Like, you're going to make the company probably 24K off of what you just did. Spend your $600. Do it every day if you want. You
Fantastic.
know? And I'm fine with it because I know because clients are thrilled. They're over the moon about what he's building. And because of that, too, he can manage extra clients.
What's he building? Disclosure?
Yeah, I can tell you about this one. So I made a post about this one on LinkedIn. But he's building a system right now. So you know Adam Robinson? So
Yeah.
Adam Robinson,
I've read the post already. Fantastic, but keep going. Yeah.
He's the CEO and founder of RB2B-Intertention.com, client of ours, friend, awesome guy. And one thing I love about working with Adam is he gives us full autonomy to whatever we want, and he gives us everything that isn't a security risk. So call transcripts, anything, right? Anything we need. And he gave us 596 call transcripts. So 596 sales call transcripts. And we can hear every single thing that people are saying about his competitors. Why are they coming to him? Why do they want to use retention? Why do they want to use RB2B? Why do they hate the people he's competing with? Everything. Are they price sensitive? Whatever it is. And because of that, we have every little bit of data that we can populate into copy. So what do? We go and we ingest all this information. We find out all those things I just mentioned. We plug an Appify scraper into Claude Code. Appify goes and finds all the posts from his competitors, from him, finds all the people there, finds all the companies that are engaging. Then we build a Clay workflow that basically finds those contacts, enriches them, and adds them to a campaign. And then what we do is we call out individual pain points that everyone's talking about those customers. So if we know that they're using one of his competitors, and I'll just say like Warmly, for example, which is one of his competitors, we can say, hey, notice you're using Warmly because maybe they're following Warmly or something like that. Curious if you've experienced X, Y, and Z pain when using the product. If so, here's how RB2B solves for it.
This is all in your GTM engineering approach, right?
Yeah, this is go-to-market engineering. This is go-to-market engineering 101, to be honest.
Fantastic.
This is the future of go-to-market engineering.
Right.
I think historically when go-to-market engineering was launched as go-to-market engineering, it was Varun Anand, the co-founder of Clay, who came out and said, I'm going to use the term go-to-market engineering, came up with that, whatever. It's stuck. It's a beautiful term. Good job, Varun. But anyways, it started off with just Clay. So if you use Clay, you were a go-to-market engineer. I think when you think about what a go-to-market engineer really means, you're engineering outcomes from a go-to-market perspective.
Right.
So why is it restricted to Clay? It's not, right? So we started using Claude Code and all these different agent frameworks that we can build, and that's what we're doing. So this is real go-to-market engineering, in my opinion. This is the next level of it. And you can see that post went kind of viral, and probably 20 people DM'd me and said, this is an incredible approach. I'm stealing this. Do you mind? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, do I have a choice? You know, it's like you can hire me or you can try to build it. You can try to build it and maybe you'll be successful. Maybe you won't. If you won't, you'll be back and you'll come to me and we'll help you build it.
But I think that's a very interesting question in its own right. So to what extent will, and you know, we've got a lot of people right now joining for GEO, mainly because of the outcomes we're able to offer, right? For GEO, for SEO, get people into the top 5 to 10 positions, make sure people are cited and they're seeing the results. And that's leading to a flywheel of, you know, more upmarket clients joining. But fundamentally, the question that I think a lot of agencies will face is what's stopping the customer from doing this on their own, right? And of course, there are simple answers to that, some of which I have, but I'm curious to hear you talk about this. You're building in public, you're sharing some of the source on what you're doing, which is getting you traction, so it's a win-win. But will there come a tipping point at which it's just increasingly easy for people just to do exactly the same thing?
Totally.
That's what you're talking about.
I think the nature of an agency, the nature of services, is if you're not innovating, you're dying.
Right.
So I do think, of course, that is going to happen. It's becoming easier and easier, and eventually this stuff will become commoditized to a point where there'll be a one-click tool where you can say, in natural language, I want this to happen, and all of it will just happen. That will happen. But you can continue to innovate or you die. So
Sure, it will happen, but at that point, will the people who are ahead of the latest tech trend have found a better way
Totally.
of using different layers to do the same thing in a more sophisticated way?
Totally. And only the strong will survive. That's honestly how I feel. Like think about it. Every single one of these CEOs has come out and said white collar work is going to drop by 50% over the next 5 years. I believe that too. I think totally it's going to happen. Am I going to be one of those? Hopefully not. And the way I'm preventing myself against and the way I'm becoming defensible is I just continue to innovate. It's like I'm on the front lines. I've been on the front lines for almost 4 years at this point. Why am I not going to continue to do that? I think the people who don't innovate and who don't adapt and who don't get with the stuff, those are the people who are going to be laid off, unfortunately. And it will happen. But as long as you're continuing to build and be on the forefront, and something that I've always taken pride in is I'm a thought leader in the space, right? So it's not only am I talking about it, I'm actually building it. I spend 6 hours of my day in the terminal coming up with cool things that are going to be ROI positive for my clients, things that are going to drive revenue, things that are going to continue to have them pay me because they're getting so much value out of it. Our pipelines are not slowing down. If anything, it's speeding up.
I think what's interesting is handoff. So when you talk about a lot of this stuff,
Yep.
you sound a bit like a mad scientist vibe coding in the basement, right?
Which I am.
Which you are.
Yeah.
Which you are. I've seen
not the basement, but
I've
yeah.
seen your mad scientist room, and it's
you've seen
it's
it.
not actually in the basement.
Yeah, it's not in the basement.
It's quite
but,
nice, but.
Yeah.
But what I would say is then that this raises a question for a lot of teams, and in our audience, we'll be thinking people who aren't quite as quick on the code as you are. Is how do you then hand off something cool that you've created, right? Now, of course, the technical answer is making sure you have everything stored on the same server, you transfer stuff over. This is one of the things we've figured out now, right? I've got a few tech nerds in the company who are building skills.
Tech nerds, I love that.
Right? And we've found ways to, of course, migrate those skills to other desktops, right? People who don't, not every employee right now that we have in the company has their own Mac Mini or private server.
Nor do they need
right?
it.
Nor do they need it. But so there are ways of migrating skills. But how are you essentially working on something for 4 to 6 hours, and then you've got a load of other stuff to do, admin, calls, sales calls, management. How are you making sure that the rest of the company can leverage the stuff that you've vibe coded?
So that's a fantastic question. So
Right.
one is GitHub. So you can build all kinds of stuff and you can share it on the GitHub repo, and then you can
Right.
give access to your team through that GitHub repo.
Right.
Another thing that's a beautiful thing that you can do that no one really thinks about, by the way, there's one other guy that I know of. I'm not going to say his name because he's a competitor, but one other guy that I've seen doing this, and it's just the most obvious thing ever, but it's when you're building everything in Claude Code or behind a terminal in OpenClaw, there's a memory, right? It's memory.md. There's literally a memory in the files. So all of this stuff, if you do it right, is saved in the memory. With that said, when everything's saved in the memory and you can see the actual order in which things are happening, you can go straight into Claude Code and say, create documentation for my team to use this based on everything that I just did. Make it so simple that a 5-year-old could understand it. And then what you do is you explain the thing, you record a loom, you hand off this beautiful document that shows crystal clear on how to use it. Then, keep in mind, this is all stored in the GitHub repo. So I can tell my team, when you go into the GitHub repo, ask questions about how to use this tool that I built. Ask questions about what this workflow does. And it'll be able to give explicit understanding to each team member on exactly how to use every single thing that we just did.
Right. Central GitHub repo, something that we also have right
Yep.
now for a lot of our skills. And people will just recall information from the GitHub repo, but you'll be able to create SOPs in seconds based on what you've already created.
Exactly.
Right? So what's an example of that in your company that you've recently, a tool that you've created that you've immediately enabled others to use? And I'm not talking about the tracking of Claude tokens. We can come back to that in
Yep.
a second. But what's an example of something you've vibe coded one morning where you were feeling creative and that the teams immediately made use of?
Content.
Right.
So content for me is a huge pillar for growth.
Right.
Right? It's like we run outbound, we run paid media, and we also do content. We do all three of those services to acquire new clients for ourselves as well. Content being the number one pillar that drives most revenue for our business. That's just the way it is in 2026, right? So with that said, it's very time consuming and hard to create quality content.
It is.
So I wanted my team to have an easier way without sacrificing the quality of work that they're doing for clients or the amount of time that they can dedicate to clients. But at the same time, I've assessed KPIs with each team member on their content skills, their content output, and the amount of revenue that's tied directly to their content. So I've told you this before, but they have booking links. So when they post on LinkedIn, if anything comes in from their link, it doesn't matter who closes the deal, they get a commission off of it. They're monetarily incentivized to create content. So how do you make them create content in a way that doesn't sacrifice any of the things I just said? You make it easy for them. So I built an agent in Claude Code that allows them to do that. So they can actually literally go and create the infographics, create everything, the actual posts, And then me personally, I use OpenClaw for it, but they don't have access to that one. But they can have a research agent that's going and looking at everything, and then they can have that research agent tie everything back to what we do because I've stored it in the memory. And they can update this one, by the way. This is public for them. And then they have an infographic skill that creates skills. And this is the same stuff I put into OpenClaw, by the way. But it creates everything for them. So they have an infographic creator, a carousel creator, and in theory, it should take them no longer than 3 to 5 minutes of just talking through their computer to create a S-tier post that will do way more numbers than anything they're going to create.
Each of them have their Fireflies calls as we do in a Supabase, stored.
They do,
right?
But the other thing that they can do as well is they can just paste transcripts into VS Code, which is obviously easier. I mean, it's more time consuming, but it's easier. So they can just paste their transcripts into VS Code and say, hey, create content about X, Y, and Z based on what we talked about in this call. I want to harp on this fact, blah, blah, blah. Create an infographic to demonstrate exactly how I just did what I did. And it can do it. So that's one thing that we're doing. So enablement's a big thing that we're working on too right now.
Enablement of your staff, right?
Exactly. I want them to have the easiest job ever so they can have more time to do the hard things that we don't know how to do yet. Right. So they can innovate.
So, this is really interesting because 3 or 4 months ago we were talking about how just the fact that each team member has to post, right? Yep. And it was as simple as each team member has to post, and that probably wasn't facilitating access to graphic design, for instance, right?
Well, we have designers in house, but the designers in house also were working on ad creative for our clients.
Right.
Look, we're doing things with the Nano Banana MCP. I think you mentioned you are too.
We're using that as well, yeah.
Totally. So in Claude Code, they can go and they can take a graphic that already exists and say, I want 4 more variations of this, and they can use the Nano Banana MCP. And if that file is stored locally, Claude Code can go and pull it from their computer, and they can do that. And they do that. Don't get me wrong. Our designers are doing that. But at the same time, they're also doing a lot of manual design still. They're still using their skill set, right? And more importantly, they're using their creative eye, which that takes years and years of training to build, to create ad creatives. But it's time consuming versus if you're doing this with an agent, it's instant. It takes 60 seconds to generate an infographic.
And so as long as people are really staying on top of AI and learning how to use it, they can leverage their existing skill set to greater effect in a way. So it becomes more about being a creative strategist than actually designing the creative. It becomes more about understanding what's working, leveraging AI, but having the eye, this being sort of the second pair of eyes to check whether an ad creative passes certain criteria, and then reinforming that same AI on how to improve the creative the next time round. And so you're finding use of your graphic designers, but you're getting them to do the highest leverage task, which is the ad creative.
Yep.
Which means you still need your team to continue to create content by creating infographics that, in a way, your graphic design team don't have time to prompt with the full context of each of the individual members, right?
Totally. And I want our graphic designers primarily focused on client work versus internal content, Right. So things that are actually going to produce outcomes, because at the end of the day for us, it's like you're a business owner, I'm a business owner.
Right.
The hard truth is we are thinking about how to be ROI positive. And if I'm having a designer do work and I'm paying them a salary and that salary doesn't contribute to money through the door, tough.
Right.
So it's like, how can I enable my team without sacrificing anyone from my team? How can we continue to grow with the team? I'm a big believer. I don't like to do layoffs. In fact, I've never laid someone off.
Okay.
And I don't plan to. I don't want to, ever. If anything, maybe we'll move someone into the right role. Maybe they're in the wrong role right now, but we're very selective with who we hire. So we find people that are constantly leveling up themselves. But we've never laid someone off, and I don't want to. So what can we do? We can enable people to do more in their existing role, and that's what my focus has been lately.
I think it is a challenge when you have someone who's slow with AI, who still wants to enjoy all of their weekends, take the additional day
Don't
off.
hire them.
Just isn't innovating with AI.
Don't hire them.
That's fine. It's all good, all good and well, but there's not. I don't think it's empathetic to all business owners who are in a situation where they maybe have a lot of staff who aren't AI competent and they have to make tough decisions, right? You're already at the cutting edge of tech.
Yeah, totally. I'm in a unique situation there, right? It's like I honestly can't resonate with business owners that are in those positions because it's just not something that I've ever done. I've had one business ever, and it's this one. And we've always been at the forefront of tech. So it's like everyone that I've had the pleasure to work with, everyone that's worked at Understory, they are these types of personalities that are constantly trying to level up. They're lifelong learners. They're nerds. They're tinkerers. They do all the things, or else we wouldn't hire them. So don't get me wrong. Have we had some team members that are better than others? Obviously. But at the same time, if you're coaching them the right way, you can get people to learn. So it's like you can get people to level up, especially when you demonstrate what you're doing as the owner of the business. Like when I show them what I've built, they're like, holy shit, light bulb moment hits. And then they're like, I want to start doing things like this. And they start building. What I found more difficult, to be honest, than anything else is keeping your team members from getting distracted. So it's like when they have client work to be fulfilling and doing, and now they see this shiny new object and all they want to do is play. It's like a video game. It's like, I don't know if you play World of Warcraft or any of these games when you were a kid.
Not personally, but yeah.
Oh my God, I did.
Okay.
All right. So I've been a nerd my whole life.
Okay.
But when I played World of Warcraft, you get lost. And next thing you know, it's 6 a.m. and you haven't done your homework. Right? It's the equivalent. It's like your homework is delivered for the clients. Right? And it's mandatory. It's not optional. And then when you have some free time, when you want to play, then you go play World of Warcraft and level up your Tauren to level 60. You know?
Got it. I think one of the things you keep referring back to is Appify, and I know my dev team is using Appify.
Yeah.
It's basically for our audience to be aware. It's a marketplace of different MCPs.
Pretty much.
Right?
It's a marketplace of what they call actors, and each actor has a unique function,
Right.
and you can call them all via the Appify API.
Yeah, and so you can recall all of these via the Appify API, so that an autonomous agent can effectively decide which one to utilize. Right?
Yep. Totally.
Right.
The autonomous agent, by the way, that's a great thing to talk about. But the Appify MCP and the Appify, whatever, all the shit that you can do with Appify, that's the beauty of these agents is they understand exactly which actor to use. So it doesn't matter what the job is. You can speak to it in natural language and it'll find the right Appify actor as long as you have an active subscription to Appify.
Right.
Sick.
Okay.
Honestly,
Finds the right
sick.
actor to perform, to basically be a better bridge and a better connector between natural language and whatever outcome you want to achieve.
Totally.
Right. And so whenever you're putting that into OpenClaw or whatever, you're achieving that outcome. What are the MCPs within the Appify sort of list of MCPs of 3,000 plus MCPs that you're most making use
Which
of?
actors?
Which actors?
Yeah, so there's a lot. I mean, they have, I got to be careful saying this, but like there's a LinkedIn scraper, there's an Instagram scraper, there's oh my God, you can scrape followers from different profiles. You can do anything you can really think of on Appify, Google Maps, everything.
So well versed.
I'm going to do another podcast in the studio, I think, too, with this guy, Seb Hall. Did you meet him? Did you meet him with you?
No.
Oh, okay. Well. So continue, Ash.
So I was just saying, what was the last thing I was saying?
You were talking about Appify actors, and then I said something, and then you said something else.
So we were talking about the Appify actors, and one of the fundamental questions, and this is something that many people are gonna be overthinking, and it's a problem that many people are gonna have, and I'm sure you've had it, but you seem to be confronting it very quickly. Is at any given point, you could be vibe coding anything. So I suppose the theory of constraints would tell you always need to leverage AI to solve the most pressing problem at hand, because you could technically have 5 different Mac Minis or 5 different virtual private servers and be a master prompter, a bit like a chess grandmaster that goes from board to board and plays a move on each. Is that the most efficient way to do it, or is it better to just focus on one problem at a time, or a couple of problems at a time?
I think it depends on your goal, right? It's like if you have a series of different tasks that require 5 different people, to work together in a chain, then maybe that is your best case, right? Maybe you do want to chain together all these different agents to be able to do that work for you. If you have individual people on your team that are doing one thing and one thing only, you can just have one Kylie. It really varies on what your job is. I think there's no one size fits all approach when you're doing all this stuff. It really is custom to you. And I also think everyone does things a little bit differently. Like I like to use sub agents with my master agent in order to get things done. Some people like to do that. Some people like to have individual master agents and buy the 5 Mac Minis and set them up to work like that. But keep in mind, too, if they're not connected via something, they can't interact with each other in the first place.
Yeah.
Which is why I like the sub-agent thing.
Right. Sub-agents within the same server.
Ecosystem. Just think about it as an ecosystem, because there's so many different ways to set it up. But just think about it as an ecosystem.
Right. A common way that people have been discussing setting up agents is say, I've got my CMO agent, I've got my COO agent. I haven't heard you talk about this, but what's the use of it for you? I
mean, to be honest, Kylie's my AI chief of staff.
Right.
That's what she really is.
Because Kylie, as we spoke about on the way here.
I love that we're talking about my cat as an AI agent right now, but yeah.
Kylie, as we were discussing on the way here, is able to track, based on the Slack interactions, which clients have been waiting for a response for a while, and immediately notify the member of staff or the account
Yep.
manager for that account there's been a delay in responding to that individual, and that they're potentially more likely to be flustered or concerned or even to churn. So that's a very useful hack that you've got. What
Totally.
other things is Kylie doing that are noteworthy?
I would say that's the most important one, to be honest. So we operate with all of our clients in Slack, which is a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because we have great relationships with all of our clients. If they're mad, we know immediately. If they're happy, we know immediately. And then we also can just ask them for things really quickly. So blessing and a curse. I personally like to have my clients in Slack, even though it can be overwhelming. With that said, we're approaching 50 clients. And when you have 50 clients, it's very hard for me to be able to track every single thing that's going on with all of those clients. So I have Kylie doing that for me. I still read as many messages as I can, and I get to most of them over time. You know, like I could be laying in bed at night and reading through the messages and I'll see them. But in real time, we have 12-hour SLAs with our clients. So if we haven't responded to a message in Slack within 12 hours, we're out of SLA, and that's unacceptable. So Kylie is trained within 10 hours. If there's a message that hasn't been responded to, she will ping the relevant person on my team with context and say like, hey, Ash sent a message asking for the Instantly API key for their account, and you haven't responded to them in 10 hours. You only have 2 hours to respond. I suggest you respond within the next hour, and here's the message I would send. Here's how you can find the Instantly MCP or the Instantly API key. So it'll literally send them that message automatically, and then Kylie notifies me that she sent a message. And
At what point does Kylie just automatically bypass that account manager and do it themselves?
So
they don't for now.
It's a good question. It happened. So it happened. It happened with a Gold Glove client of ours too.
Is that because you had OpenClaw?
It was
you
OpenClaw.
set up?
Yeah,
Okay, got
yeah.
it.
So it was OpenClaw. So
So
that's
the guardrails were wrong.
The guardrails were wrong.
Yeah.
So that happened. But yeah, Kylie sent a message to a publicly traded company saying, hey, you haven't responded to this person, and this person is the chief strategy officer of a publicly traded company, and it's been 10 hours. And it sent that message in the chat and then tagged the member of my team. So it's good. It sent the right message, but it sent it to a shared channel with 60 people in it, by the way. Thankfully, I was actually asleep. I just passed out like 9 p.m. that night when this happened. And then Ali, my co-founder, thankfully he saw it. He deleted it instantly. Nobody saw it. But it's like, yeah, that did happen.
So and the message wasn't good enough. It needed QC.
No, it was a great message. But the thing is like you don't... All right, put yourself in this person's shoes. You're the chief strategy officer of a publicly traded company, and the founder of the agency you just hired's cat just sent a message in a chat with 60 people in it. You know, it's like whether or not it's helpful or not, it definitely was helpful. It's just not the best look. So thankfully we got ahead of that
and
one.
speaking to agency owners at the highest level, it's quite clear that, account managers are there for QC.
Yep.
Right? How are you dealing with the concern that staff members may have that they've been replaced? I think you've already answered that question.
Yeah, they're not.
By fostering an environment of innovation where they can actively use Claude credits, you're countering that.
Yeah, they're not. They're not replaced. Like, that's definitely not what the goal is. I don't tell them, hey, you're at risk because I'm building agentic workflows that are going to replace you. And frankly, they're not, as long as they adapt. Our business model and the way that our business operates is great. We don't need to cut costs any more than we already have in theory. I'm very happy with where we are as a business. I love my team. Everyone plays a critical role on the team. I don't want to replace or get rid of anybody unless they do something terribly wrong where they just don't show up time after time after time. What I do want them to do is get 10 times more efficient. And if they get more efficient, then we can take on more clients with the existing staff that we have. And they can do better work for the new clients that we bring on. So that's how we get it around that. So it's like no one is thinking, I'm going to be replaced by an AI agent. They're thinking, how can I make myself better with an AI agent? You know what I mean?
Or with several.
Or with several. And it doesn't have to be an AI agent. Just how are you using AI effectively to do your job better?
One of the things that we're using, one of the cases, the use cases for an MCP with us at Pontifex is Firecrawl. I don't know if you've come across it, but we're using Firecrawl right now
It's amazing.
to look at landing pages, to scrape information, to see where competitors aren't doing SEO correctly, to see how we could improve our own paid acquisition landing pages on Google and Meta ads for conversion and improve them. Firecrawl, for those who don't know, allows you to effectively scrape JavaScript off any website, to analyze the website.
Literally will
so on
crawl
and
a
so
website.
forth.
Yep.
Yeah. So what are you using Firecrawl for?
A lot. So Firecrawl is actually built into Kylie.
Right,
So
fantastic.
Kylie uses Firecrawl. which is great. So Kylie can do all kinds of different web scraping. She can scrape the JavaScript, blah, blah, blah. You know, another thing Firecrawl can actually do is duplicate websites, which is pretty damn cool. But you can literally look at any single website and then duplicate it entirely using Firecrawl, which is really, really cool. So you should look into that too. Not that you need to, but if you have a competitor that's pissing you off and they're smaller than you and you want to squash them like a bug, I'm not ruthless or anything, but you could do that. So that's something you can do with Firecrawl, but Firecrawl also works really well with OpenClaw.
Yeah. I mean, time tracking wise as well, being able to see where your staff are spending time is important.
What are you
without
using
them
for
feeling
that?
continually monitored. We're using Toggle, but now because people are spending in the company so long inside of LLMs, especially Claude, because we've migrated from ChatGPT to Claude, as everyone
Sad
has
how that's
now.
happened, huh?
Sad, but right.
They're really fumbling the bag right now, ChatGPT. Man, that's crazy.
So like, because if you're spending so long inside Claude, we effectively have a system where we connect Claude directly to Toggle Track via the Toggle MCP.
Very cool.
Right. So instead of people having to manually log their hours inside Toggle, we've now got a system where, based on your interaction with Claude, Toggle will automatically update based on what you were prompting Claude. So if you're spending time in Claude and doing a bunch of different things, Toggle will actually record and demonstrate and show what you were doing inside
Very
Claude.
cool.
Right.
So we're thinking about time tracking. Should I get into Toggle? Is that what
So I
should be
think,
using?
yeah, you should use Toggle or consider it, but it just it saves us effectively the subscription on Toggle, which is thousands of dollars a year. Why? Because people don't make use of Toggle properly in the company.
They're just
because
not
they don't
actually
have
following
time.
through with it, yeah.
They don't have time to log. If you want to log stuff properly in Toggle, that's 20 to 30 minutes of time. Whereas if you want to log your LLM use without logging your LLM use, use an MCP that tells the business owner the extent to which different people are actually taking initiative by doing the right things in Claude. That's one way that we're using it, right? And now we're building a custom time tracker with Claude that effectively, bypasses that completely. But that's to come.
That's sick.
Yeah.
I love to hear that. The question I have for you on that though is like, so for example, one thing that Ali and I have been talking about a lot recently.
Yeah.
I want to start implementing time tracking too. And it's not to monitor people. It's not to be the police. It's not to be a babysitter. But what it really is I want to understand profitability per client that we work with. Because I think I've told you this, but we have some clients that are paying us, close to $50,000 a month. We have other clients that are paying us $12,000 a month, right?
Right.
Are you spending more time on that $50,000 a month client than that $12,000 a month client? Is that $12,000 a month client sucking us dry in terms of everything that we can do and like,
A bit like an Anthropic Pro user, right? A bit like an Anthropic user
using
OpenClaw,
no,
right?
but seriously, I want to know that. So what we're thinking about doing is, I think it's called Haven, maybe? Is that right? Have you heard of that? Time tracking.
Hey Jen, but not Haven.
No, I think it's called Haven, but it's a time tracking solution that plugs into ClickUp, which is what we use for project management.
Interesting.
So it's like I'm working on this client, start tracking your time when you finish it, log it in ClickUp, boom, it's done. But that's what we were thinking because we want to know, is a $12,000 client as profitable as a $50,000 client? I would anticipate we're spending a lot more time on that $50,000 a month client. You would hope.
You should hope so, right? And there's usually an intuition around these things. And the issue of time tracking itself taking so much time is going to be removed when people are spending 80% of their time in Claude or in an LLM. It's going to become easier, right?
Yeah.
Another interesting thing is custom dashboards and internal tools. So
don't get me started on this one, Ash.
yeah. So right now we have data aggregated. We have dashboards that are aggregating data across Meta, across Google, obviously without trying to get us for ads, for Google ads, for Meta ads, without obviously trying to get banned by Meta and have our ad accounts banned. There are ways around that. But a clear agency value proposition now is being able to show your clients you have everything aggregated into one single space, one single dashboard via MCP with all these different platforms, right?
Totally. So you're saying you guys are doing that?
Yeah, we're doing that actively for medical clients, for medical groups. We're doing it for.
I don't even want to know what that looks like for
SEO
HIPAA and stuff like that.
For who? Say again.
HIPAA or anything like that.
No, it's tough. You've got to make sure you're
compliant. You have to.
Yeah, you've got to be compliant, right? But there are ways to do that.
Totally.
It's easier with your standard SEO GEO client. But what's super interesting, and I hadn't mentioned this yet, is that we have effectively found a way to code something that without the use of HubSpot, which is kind of unreliable, even hire us, specifically for SEO and GEO, allows our clients to sort of measure revenue from ChatGPT referrals. So we now know that this client had an increase not just in ChatGPT referrals, people visiting the site from ChatGPT or Claude, but actually translating that contact form frequency increase into actual revenue. And now that we can measure revenue from SEO, from GEO, and all these things, it's becoming a lot easier for our clients to see the value of having reached the top 5 positions.
Totally.
Or having actually increased the number of citations they see in.
Totally. And that's critical too, because I think I've told you about this, but for me, I was skeptical for a while that the GEO agency that we've been working with for Understory was actually delivering any results, but they also have something very similar that was able to show me pretty quickly that, we have had a large increase in LLM traffic over the last 6 months. So yeah, it's important. You definitely needed that.
100%.
I'm curious, how are you guys using AI and different agents, maybe in Claude Code, also for agency operations outside of that?
So we have our... We have 3 more minutes? Yeah. Okay, cool. So we effectively have our main operations team and account managers have all of their WhatsApps tied to Claude.
Yeah.
And in the case of our COO, to OpenClaw. And so they're able to see a summary of what's being discussed via our client messages, both in WhatsApp and in Slack in the morning.
Oh, you guys communicate in WhatsApp as well?
Yeah, we do, because we have a lot of clients that we have when we started out that just prefer WhatsApp and don't like Slack.
Yeah.
So we transitioned more to tech companies, educational brands and e-com brands. They all prefer Slack.
Yep.
We have a ton of dentists and medical clients and med spas,
and they prefer
all
WhatsApp.
in WhatsApp, right?
Are those European clients?
A lot of them are European and US clients. Funnily enough, even the US clients, a lot of them prefer WhatsApp, the medical clients to Slack, right? And, so that's typically where we came from. So via WhatsApp, which you also like, we're getting an agent give a summary to our main account managers and ops of the of what's happened on the previous day, or what's happened overnight, or what new messages need to be responded to. I've effectively retired my personal assistant from some of the more basic tasks by getting a scheduled summary every day of my own emails, and I've even got an agent who's responding to those emails without me having to.
What agent is that?
Well, I mean, I don't have a name for the agent.
Oh, okay. It's not Fixer.
No, I'm not using Fixer.
Oh my God,
AI.
I still love Fixer. That's still a great product. Shout out Archie and
shout out to Fixer. I just think that I've just got one prompt that gets approval, right? I can give approval if it's a sensitive email. Otherwise, the agent is authorized to directly respond to emails of lesser importance, right? And so that's saving me a ton of time and enabling certain staff members that were doing very, very repetitive roles to go and actually focus on doing higher leverage tasks that they wouldn't have had time for previously.
That's efficiency. I love it.
Right.
My favorite one that we've built. So we, long story short, it was important for us to understand our data financially for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So what I did, we have been tracking everything in the most archaic way. For such an AI forward and tech native company like us, it was shocking how bad we were tracking our finances. And when I say bad, it wasn't bad. It was just we were tracking it in a Google Sheet. So I have a tab, 39 tabs from January 2023 until now. 39 tabs month by month, what we've billed every single client, what they've paid, everything. So what I did is I took the time, probably took an hour, to implement or push every single one of those sheets into Claude Code, and I saved it as a file locally on my machine, and it's called the Understory Bible, right? And the Understory Bible now, because I have every single bit of information, I can do plots, I can do graphs, I can visualize every single thing about our finances from January until now beautifully. So much so that I even created a dashboard for our finances where I can track overdue invoices. I can track everything. Now it's set up in a way where I built an automated system that allows us to follow up with people who are overdue on their invoices.
Right. Yeah, no, and you were telling me about this.
And the thing is like, I think you're the exact same way, but we're a bootstrapped company. We have a full staff. We have to be able to pay our bills on time. Are we profitable? Of course. But it's like at the same time, if our clients aren't paying us on time, that can be a huge headache. It can be an operational burden. Can we pay our employees on time? It's never actually happened, but it's a nightmare. And historically, it was Ali and I going and looking at every single Stripe invoice, identifying if it was overdue. Stripe has their own notifications. They suck. So we built a thing. It's an automated billing system that identifies the whoever is responsible for paying those invoices on file, and it notifies them after a few days, because we also have late fees in our contract. have we ever actually charged a late fee? Am I putting myself,
Yeah.
at risk of saying
Yeah.
this? No, we've never charged a late fee in our lives, and I don't want to ever. But at the same time, we do have late fees in our contract. So legally, I could charge a late fee. So what I say is, hey, at the expense of not charging you a late fee, here's an automated message, and here's your invoice that's overdue. Here's a link to pay it.
Right. Automated messages, the automated part taking pressure off you, right?
Exactly. And the beautiful thing about this is our actual cash collected, like the actual billing process, we went from, I think, 75% on time or something like that to like 92% just from implementing this. So that for us was a massive operational efficiency that we built, and it was all built in Claude Code.
So you guys are using QuickBooks, right?
We use QuickBooks.
We use Xero, okay? So it's the same thing. We're using Claude Code to tap into the Xero MCP, and effectively by a list of the clients that we're giving it, that we can separate into different divisions of the company. One, let's say the medical companies that we historically worked more with, and now the tech, the e-com brands, and the education companies that have much higher budgets, higher expectations, global objectives, rather than say just ranking locally. We effectively have two entirely separate P&Ls and models and sides of the business that we want to grow. So Xero was able, Claude Code together with Xero was able to go in, create two entirely separate P&Ls for those two parts of the business.
Beautiful.
And through a few commands that we've given it, and through a few distinctions and criteria, we've been able to separate those two parts out so we can have different growth budgets for those sides of the business. And this was a task that was taking our bookkeepers months to complete. And
So
it's
you
now
have
something.
bookkeepers?
Yeah, we do have bookkeepers.
How many?
We have a team. We have one company that does our bookkeeping.
Oh, okay. So you actually, you outsourced it.
Right, but we don't have a CFO, right? And so this is
You don't need
effectively.
one.
Well, this is the point, right?
Yeah.
So the question is, we don't want to put all CFOs out of business, right? We don't. But are there going to be CFOs that do a better version of what you've done internally? I suppose they're going to have to serve more upmarket clients. It seems like you don't want a CFO right now.
Absolutely not. I hired one. We had one. I told you it was a fractional, but we had one.
No, I know you fired one, and you discussed this in the previous podcast.
Yeah,
but
wow,
now,
the system I built is so much more efficient than they ever were. Plus, when I created that Understory Bible, oh my God, I have everything at my fingertips now. With one prompt, I can say one thing, and everything is right in front of me, saved as a local file that I can send to an accountant, I could send to anyone.
Have you just got that financial, or is it a financial Bible, or have you want it to be a Bible for the whole company?
Ooh, it's not for the whole company. This is for Ali and I.
No, isn't just a Bible that gives you information personally about the whole company, or just the financials?
Oh, I've gone way further than that.
Yeah.
I have something I want to talk about, but I feel like maybe I should save this for the next podcast.
Okay.
Maybe I'll divulge a little bit about it. But basically, every single client that we have now has a GitHub repo, and they all interact with each other.
Right.
So I can get any bit of information and take the learnings from one client, apply them to the next, and chain them all together. That's a different
learnings
thing
around performance, ROI, and the rest.
performance mainly.
So
but
you're spending 4 hours a day vibe coding.
more. And I wouldn't even call it vibe coding anymore.
And stuff's not breaking.
No.
It's
That's
just
the beauty of
building
Claude
on
Code
top of.
versus a tool like Lovable. It's like Lovable, awesome company, great job, cool company. But Claude Code is on a different level. Claude Code builds you things that are production ready. Lovable builds something that looks cool, doesn't actually work. So yeah, with Claude Code, no, our things are not breaking. And if they do break, like every now and then you'll have one thing that might go a little bit wrong. It's a prompt, hey, X, Y, and Z is happening. And I told you this, I use Whisperflow. I don't even type anymore.
Yeah, we use Whisperflow, yeah.
But I'll just say one or two things. I'll prompt it. Everything's fixed immediately.
So, 1 second, vamos a terminar, ¿no? Pues I'm going to start by saying, so. Alex, so listen, it's been great catching up. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the third part already.
Yeah, we're going to do it.
Yeah,
It's always fun. It's always fun because I feel like both of us, when we take some time apart, you're a globetrotter, a world traveler. I'm pretty tight-knit here in Miami. But every time you're here, I feel like you come back and we have 50,000 new things to talk about, which is exciting. Shows that we're both doing things. We're actually operating, moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to see that you're staying on the cutting edge as always.
So are you.
Looking forward to the next one.
I'm looking forward to the next one. I'm looking forward to dinner too.
Nice one, yeah.